London is suffering an unprecedented wave of teen violence.
A teenager was killed.
7 teenagers have been killed since the year began.
This murder happened in broad daylight.
I want to know what's behind the violence and why children are using lethal weapons on one another.
I've seen kids the age of 10 years carrying Mac-10s.
All sorts of guns, Mac-10s.
I can go around the corner right now and buy a gun. It's that easy.
Where do you think the guns come from?
Government.
Yeah, if anything goes down like to my boy, I'm there, innit?
This is London. It's home, where I come back to after dealing with assaulted drug dealers, gunmen and killers on my travels around the world in pursuit of an understanding of gang culture. It's supposed to be a bit of a safe haven. But in the last few weeks, while I've been away, London has been hit by a spate of gang-related killings in areas I know just a few miles away from where I live.
I've taken time out of filming a new gang series to take a look at London, to check out what's happening on my own doorstep. I want to know why, when the gun crime figures in the UK are falling, the age of those pulling the trigger is falling too. Teenagers are killing teenagers, and we need to find out why.
The shootings of 3 youths, James Andre Smartford, Michael Dosunmu and Billy Cox in just 2 weeks in February shook the nation.
Was shot twice at Streatham Ice Arena.
Billy and his killer had been in the flat together.
And in Peckham, Michael Dosunmu,
gunned down in his own home.
Shot in his bed.
just 15 when he was killed. Billy is the 3rd South London teenager to be gunned down in less than 2 weeks.
The 3 killings occurred within a fortnight in a comparatively small area of South London. I wanted to know more about what happened and the impact of the killings on the local community. So, I went to meet local anti-gun campaigner Cheryl Seeley.
James Andre Ford, which is known to his friends and loved one as Andre, was here with some friends. Apparently there was a birth night party. There were about 300 young people celebrating. A gunman walked into the ice rink and shot Andre.
Detectives say he'd run through the crowded area seconds before 3 shots were fired at around 11 p.m.
One morning, there was a young lad, just turned 15, the day before the incident. His door was kicked in, young men ran into the house.
In Peckham, Michael Dosunmu, just 15 when he was killed in his bed in what may have been a case of mistaken identity.
You know, and that's particularly shocking for the community as a whole, because obviously home is the sanctity of your children. I would believe that the safest place for my children would be indoors. Here we have the scene of another gun violence, a murder of a young man cut down in his prime, a mother robbed of her son, father robbed of his son, and a sister robbed of her brother as well.
Billy and his killer had been in the flat together. There was no sign of a forced entry. Billy clearly knew his killer. Police know that the back door was open. The belief is that the killer used the back door as an escape route, and forensic teams have been poring over the flat for the whole day.
The graffiti and floral tributes commemorating these youngsters are depressingly similar to the memorials I've seen for victims of gang violence the world over. And they're a reminder of the sense of horror that greeted the murder of a 10-year-old boy 7 years ago.
Damilola was fatally stabbed as he walked home from school on Monday. He dragged himself 100 yards towards his home before bleeding to death in the stairwell of a block of flats. Police are hunting 3 boys.
When Damilola Taylor was stabbed to death on a North Peckham estate in November 2000, the area became a byword for the problem of youth violence. 2 teenage brothers said to be members of the notorious Peckham Boys gang are serving 8 years in youth custody for Damilola's killing. Today the estate is a very different place, having benefited from a multi-million-pound regeneration programme. which has improved life for the majority of people in the area, as council leader Nick Stanton told me.
Really, there are two Peckhams. There's a very hard-working, very badly paid, very family-orientated Peckham, which never gets any headlines, never gets any praise. And then you do have some organised criminal activity going on here, which gets all the headlines and all the attention. But for most people in Peckham, life's not like that.
How much do you think family responsibility is an issue in this problem?
In places like Peckham, there is a problem. We expect people to work long hours and not get benefits. And then we say, well, who's looking after the kids during those long hours when parents are often at work? So there's a lot about putting things in place to make sure that parents get support. Actually, some parents need training in being better parents, but we also need communities that take care of their own children, that don't just keep passing by and saying it's someone else's problem. And what's really good at the moment in Peckham is there's a real groundswell of the community saying this is our problem, we've got to deal with it. It's no good expecting the council or the police to ride in on white horses and solve the problems for us. It's up to us, it's our responsibility. At the end of the day, they're our kids.
Despite the improvements they've made around here, Peckham still has a reputation for gang violence, and it was here, in the same streets where Damilola Taylor died, that Michael Dosunmu was shot.
This is where I used to live in 1982 through to 83, when I was a young drama student. It was a very scary place then. I used to run off the bus from Trafalgar Avenue with my hand inside my sports bag as if I had a weapon. They used to have tunnels to get through to the centre of the estate, and we lived dead in the middle. People would just hang about in those. Anyone vulnerable, anyone old would just have their shopping nicked off them or their watches taken or their wallets. It was a tough place. It was very, very loud, lots of music, 24/7. I remember one night, the guy that I lived with, the guy I went to drama school with, we woke up to the smell of smoke, and this happened on a regular basis. The kids would set fire to the big trash bins at the bottom, which all the rubbish dropped into. At the end of the corridor, and we had to wake everybody up and get them out of bed and wait for the fire brigade to arrive. But they got so bored with coming out on so many calls, they used to take their time saying that no one was in danger.
In my day, the youth gangs around here were groups of mates who'd grown into petty crime together. But I wanted to know what, if anything, had changed. So I met up with Frank Larby, an ex-Peckham Boys gang member, who told me how he got involved and what's going on now.
I first of all started off in the North Peckham estate. That's where I was raised.
Yeah.
You know, and I was in a gang over there called the North Peckham Boys, NPBs. And then from there, when we got older, after school, left school, I joined the YPBs. I actually got involved in the gangs at the age of 11. 11.
Why is that?
Obviously, everybody was on the estates. We all grew up on the estates. You know, there was the older gangs, and basically we came after them. We was the youngers. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously, after a certain amount of years, we take over. It's like a cycle, innit? Because I remember in my time, it was fist fights and knives. You see what I'm saying? But nowadays, it's all about guns and knives.
And that's escalated over the years?
Yeah. I don't even understand it myself, do you get what I'm saying? Because I've seen kids the age of 10 years carrying Mac 10s.
10-year-olds?
Yeah.
Carrying a submachine gun?
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's nothing out here to get hold of guns.
But you don't just pick up a gun, do you? Where does a gun come from, man?
The government, innit?
The government?
Government. You can't smuggle in guns.
So what, you think there are people in the government handing out guns in the street yet?
Not necessarily, but I mean from the army barracks and whatnot. Do you get me? But, I mean, come on, you can't buy guns from the shops. You see what I'm saying? You can't smuggle guns. So how are we getting them? Do you see what I'm saying? I can go around the corner and buy a gun now, if I really wanted to. I can go around the corner right now and buy a gun. It's that easy.
What, a pistol?
I can buy a pistol, yeah. I can buy a Mac 10 if I wanted to, yeah.
And how much would a gun cost?
Depends. A Mac 10, anything between 2 to 3 grand.
And you get the ammunition with that as well, yeah?
Possibly.
But the gun's no good without the ammo, is it? Unless you're
yeah, I know, but you know, there's some people that can't get hold of the shells, so they just sell the guns, innit?
Right.
And if you can get it, you get it. If you can't, it's your problem. Take it or leave it. That's how it is.
Let's talk a bit more about you. I mean, I know you're now working in community projects in the area, but what brought you to do that, and what were you about before that happened?
Well, before that, I was a drug dealer. You know, I'm a well-known ex-drug dealer in Peckham. I used to be a stick-up kid. Basically, I used to rob drug dealers, you know. all sorts of robberies. I mean, banks, you know, travel agents and whatnot. I don't know, with me, I was just rolling with the wrong people, basically. And I enjoyed what they were doing because it was easy money. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, if you can make $5 a night, you understand? I ain't gonna go and do a 9 to 5.
Didn't that make you a target again? I mean, you must have been a target for other people.
Do you know what? To tell you the truth, at the time I thought I was untouchable. It's a risk that I was willing to take.
But you were put away periodically?
Yeah, I was put away. I've been in jail 4 times actually.
But you've also paid the price physically for being involved in that kind of activity.
2005, I had a lot of junkies I was selling to, and one of them decided to try and rob my life. You see what I'm saying? He ended up stabbing me in my stomach, punctured my bowel. I had to have a colostomy for 9 months. And ever since then, you know, I just kind of took time out and, do you know what I mean, made some decisions.
Danger! Danger! Get on the floor!
I was shocked by what Frank had told me about where the guns are coming from. But then guns and conspiracy theories go together like Smith & Wesson. One area of definite concern is replica guns, since so many have been converted into working weapons. But even those which can't be converted raise concern. Efforts are being made to stop this sweet shop in Peckham selling toy replicas, although they are well within their rights to do so, and were happy to sell us one.
We've just bought this replica gun in a sweet shop around the corner. Now, it may not be the most convincing replica. However, the community here are up in arms about the sale of these things, and I can quite understand it when a lot of young children around here are using the real thing to kill each other.
Shut them down! Shut them down! No imitation! No replicas! No more guns!
Replica guns are very dangerous, and if you really need to know just how dangerous they are, there was a shooting in Lambeth a couple of years ago where a young man was shot by armed police, shot dead actually, by armed police because he was brandishing a replica weapon. We don't want them in our shops, especially not sweet shops, where children as young as 5 years old will be going in to buy sweets.
The concern of the black community illustrates a devastating truth about gun crime in London. In a massive 75% of cases, both perpetrators and victims are black. In 1998, the police started Operation Trident to deal with the issue. Rod McIntyre is acting inspector with the Peckham Partnership team, working with Trident.
Gun-enabled crime, knife-enabled crime, woundings, personal robberies and all that, the numbers are going down. We're putting ex-offenders into the schools to actually talk to these kids about, you know, how to avoid becoming victims of knife crime or gun crime, dispelling urban myths about that some of these young people have got, that you can stab somebody more or less anywhere and they won't die.
Where do these people get these guns from?
That is one of the questions that nobody really knows the answer to.
Well, one of the accusations that we've heard is that the guns that are out on the streets in Peckham and in Brixton are there because the government wants them there. Have you heard that accusation?
I've heard that, yeah. I mean, I've heard that said, but I mean, I just can't recognise that. Nobody wants the guns in Peckham. I mean, who wants to have to deal with the issue in the first place?
Why do you think it's so attractive for these young guys to want to join these gangs?
Well, one of the reasons that the kids will tell you, they do it for protection. They feel that they're safer to be in the gang than to be outside of the gang. Other reasons that they give is kudos, and for some of them, of course, there is access to criminal activity, and that's where some of the more serious violence and that generates.
I.e. the shootings, yeah?
Well, that's not clear, because some of the fatalities that we've had could be just around simple disrespect issues.
In part 2, I go in search of the teen gangs that are said to be bringing mayhem to the streets of South London.
So what kind of guns are available?
All sorts of guns, all sorts of guns.
And hear about a sinister new development as American gang culture arrives in London. The recent killing of 3 teenagers in South London tell a sorry tale. Alarmingly, in the last 2 years, over 20 teenagers have already faced murder charges, with Trident expecting many more as a result of recent events. I'm here to learn more about the gangs behind the increase in gun violence in London.
As you can imagine, it's proved really difficult to make contact with any of the street gangs around here. However, one of them's agreed to talk to us, but they'll only do so if we keep their identities hidden.
Once we'd actually met up with them, some of the gang appeared to be quite happy to reveal their identity.
What does this respect, the word respect mean to you guys? What is respect?
It's just when you're with people, you can't get hotted up or something. Just little things like that, that's all you want.
You're live, you're nice, innit? You're nice, you can walk down the road, you're nice.
That's about it, yeah.
You mean having respect means that no one can touch you?
No one can trouble you, basically, yeah.
And if you have to get that by beating up man every day or stabbing someone every day, it's gonna have to be done, innit?
But all lads are below 20 years old, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're living a violent life at the moment, yeah? Where are all the guns coming from?
The government, innit? The government.
Okay, all right, everyone says the government, but why would it be in their interest to hand out guns?
Where they coming from then?
What I'm saying is obviously the government, because they got control of all the imports and exports, innit?
So what kind of guns are available?
Handguns, 4.5s, magnums, long nose, snub nose, whatever.
And
you can all get them.
And they're easy to get. They're easy to get, and we don't pet to bust them. You see what I'm saying? So,
show the peas. Show the pea up what? Peas.
I'd heard about a long-running feud between lads from Brixton and Peckham going back over 10 years, and I wondered what these lads made of the beef.
It's a beef thing. It's gonna be a beef thing to.
But why? Why?
Don't know. Don't care. Don't care. It's never gonna stop. Any I see, they're getting bored or something, boy. You know what I'm saying? They're getting bored or something.
Can you explain to me what the terminology slipping is?
Slipping?
Well, tell me, because like I only found out a couple of days ago.
When you get caught slipping, it means you're off guard. You're getting caught off guard. You're off point. You know, basically.
So it's like how you said, yeah. If we caught a Brixton boy over there, that's slipping, isn't it?
Slipping, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
What's he doing right here?
He slipped out of his area in the wrong area.
He's slipping, bro. Especially if he's with a chick, he's slipping.
Man, catch me with a chick slipping.
But why do you think it's getting more violent then? Why is it getting more violent?
Money, it's a paper chase, isn't it? Everyone wants money. Anyone will do anything for money.
And how do you get money then?
Everything, innit?
Anything you can do to get money. From robbing drug dealers, anything like that, innit? Like, not government moves, something we can get nicked by police by getting mad years and that. I'm talking about robbing drug dealers.
So if a drug dealer's fair game, because he's not going to go...
He's not going to go and tell the police we robbed.
What was the reaction amongst you guys when you heard about the boys being shot, particularly the ones who got shot in their own houses?
Tell you the truth, when I heard about that, I just thought, boy, he's dead straight. You see what I'm saying? I didn't give a fuck. As long as it weren't me, I didn't give a fuck. You see what I'm saying? I felt for the mum, but apart from that, fuck that, innit?
What would you like to see done to stop these things happening?
To tell you the truth, I don't really care.
Nothing
you can be done now. Because they're not going to do anything. Even if we tell you what can be done, it's not going to be done. You see what I'm saying? The government ain't going to listen to what? 6 black boys. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to listen to us. Fuck the government, man.
This is what we have to do every day.
They want us to live like this, innit? Fuck the government. I tell you straight, fuck the government, man.
Guys, is there a situation where that you would take a gun and use it on someone else?
From anyone touches my mum or violates the mum.
It's not even that. It's not even that. Anyone steps on my toes,
from your family or whatever, yeah.
Anyone
certain people are different. From man stepping his toes.
You see what I'm saying? Anyone steps on my toes, Lord.
Certain people are different, innit?
Yeah. Have any of you ever actually been affected by the violence personally?
Affected?
Yeah.
I mean, if one of your family's been hurt, one of the members of your family?
One of my boys died, but that was something to do with something else, but it was still someone getting stabbed or whatever. It was still violence, innit? But yeah, it affected me, innit? But
well, how is it not going to? Of course it affects you. Anybody else had any family tragedies like that, or friends?
A lot of people around there's been dying recently, like, and everyone knows who it is, obviously, but we just have to get along with it every day, innit?
But you're not exactly very young, but some of the kids that get involved with the guns and stuff are really, really young, aren't they? I mean, we're talking 12-year-olds, aren't we? I mean, what's that about? How come they're that young and they're getting involved?
Because they want to be like our generation. See, our generation, they want to be like us, yeah? Like, after our generation's growing up, yeah, them youngers, yeah, they're going to be crazy.
They're going to be worse than us. You see what I'm saying?
But why is that? Why are they going to be worse?
Because it's just the world, isn't it? It's just laugh.
What's going on?
Just laugh.
That's it. They don't want to go. They don't want to go through school 7 to year 11 and get their GCSEs and get.
But what happens to your childhood then? What happened to kicking them?
That's dead, man.
I've kicked football. I've done all that before.
That's dead, man. I died a long time ago.
Those young men aren't like the organised gangsters that I've met around the world. And what they are is angry, alienated, and clearly in search of an identity. The problem is their willingness to resort to violence means that it is from their ranks and other groups like them that the perpetrators and the victims of gun crime are drawn.
The Met estimates that there are around 169 gangs with about 5,000 members in London. Almost everyone seems to agree that it's a problem which cannot be tackled by police and government alone. There are a number of community groups here aiming to get to grips with gang culture. Jennifer Blake is an ex-gang member who is trying to help youngsters in trouble.
So what are the kind of things that these kids say to you when they ask you for help?
They don't jump straight out and say, well, you know, I stabbed the boy last night and, you know, I'm a drug taker and, you know, I really destroy people's life. They come in and they might say, I've got a housing issue, can you help? So we find that because they do that, we have a one-to-one with them and let them know about the programme and we tell them where we're coming from. And that kind of opens up a door and it's like, wow, you know what, you know, I can talk to you and then everything will start coming out. And basically, it's down to them to want to make that move. And if they want to make that move, we'll go with them step by step by step.
Can you tell me, why is it that the kids are getting younger and younger?
First and mainly is that their parents are children themselves. And a lot of those young people out there have young parents that ain't really maybe got their head screwed on. So then they're looking at it that, well, I've got this respect out here now. I've got to stay in that group, because if I don't stay in that group and I'm on my own, I'm going to be a target.
Oh, we know there are a lot of guns out there, but where are they coming from?
The government are allowing them in. Let's put the guns in the poverty areas, let's put the drugs in the poverty areas. They take the drugs, they use the guns and they kill themselves. Oh, wonderful. Get rid of a population or two.
Do you think that's government policy?
Of course it's not government policy. It's not where are the guns coming from. We have to educate our children, don't pick it up. There's a thing which, yes, I'm saying as a black person, right? They say in the community like, yes, the government then put in the guns and then put in the drugs for we kill ourselves, but we're the fools for picking them up and using them and taking them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
And do you see any way of changing the situation?
Yeah, I do. Prayer.
For praying?
Prayer.
God show me the way because the devil trying to break me down. Jesus paid the price of the cross. You know what the Midwest is? Junkie, restless, nigga.
I wanted to know why the kids that I met were so willing to resort to extreme violence. So I abandoned my van and headed for Brixton to meet a man who believed he could trace the change in British gang culture to Jamaica in the 1970s.
Police and thieves in the street.
From the backyards of Jamaica have grown gangs known as yardies, controlling drug dealing, extortion and prostitution.
Guns and ammunitions.
While the local security forces battle with their own racketeers, many of the yardies have moved on to richer pastures.
Towards the late 70s and early 80s, a new breed of Jamaican started to come into Britain. A young Jamaican, they were kind of, for people like us who were out on the scene going to shebeens and that kind of stuff, you could tell they were different. They wore these big beaver hats, knits Gansey, Farrah slacks and all that kind of stuff. They had attitude and they were sort of like totally different. There was a time when, you know, you bumped into someone, sorry mate, blah, blah, blah. With these guys, it's a life or death matter.
The backyards of Kingston are the birthplace of Britain's yardie gangs. Men who once murdered here for politics, but now kill for profit.
A gunman told me last night, he just hear bam bam.
For the media, the term yardie provided a convenient, if inaccurate, catch-all for the gangsters and gunmen who emerged from the political turmoil of Jamaica in the 70s and 80s. When they brought their affinity for guns to Britain, they changed the way the drugs trade operated.
If you're out there on the street dealing drugs, and I'm out there on the street dealing drugs, but I've got a gun and you haven't, I can run you. If you've got a gun, well, it's on. And so, there, as you sort of suggest, there are these sort of quantum leaps in what is acceptable in terms of how you go about doing crime.
Crack cocaine, their trade. Flashy cars and extreme violence their trademark, one they've now exported.
It was at this bedsit where the little girl who was due to start primary school this week was apparently executed. Tony Ann Byfield was deliberately shot in the back after witnessing the murder of her father. Police believe the murders were gang-related. Bertram Byfield had links to local criminals and had been in prison for dealing crack cocaine.
So in a way, they're sort of responsible for the present gun culture on the streets of the UK.
I think it was a part of their MO, really, that when they went out and did crime, they weren't afraid to shoot up a place. They weren't afraid to take their guns out and shoot it off and all the rest of it. And this was totally new for sort of people of my generation. And again, you know, if you look back at traditional sort of 60s and 70s crims, sure, they had their sawn off, but they took it out, they did the bank job, and they put it back in the sort of the fireplace or wherever they kept it. But these guys, carrying guns around was an accessory. It's now reached a stage where this casual sort of gun culture has led to a situation where 15-year-old boys can be asleep in their bed, not even mixed up in crime. Someone breaks into their house and shoots them dead, and that's just the way it is. That's a natural conclusion as far as I'm concerned.
When I was young, my mama had beef, 17 years old, kicked out on the streets. Though back at the time, I never thought I'd see a face. Ain't a woman alive that could take my mama's place. Dear mama.
The ripple effect of the gun culture Jeff had told me about does indeed reach beyond the confines of those directly involved in the drugs industry. I went to meet a woman whose son has been memorialised in the kind of mural I last saw in Jamaica after he was shot by a gang calling itself the Muslim Boys.
Adrian was 20 and he was told on the Sunday prior to his death that if he didn't become a Muslim, that they would kill him by the Wednesday. On the Wednesday, he was killed.
He was shot, wasn't he?
He was shot 5 times to the head.
You're saying that there are young boys out there trying to convert other young boys to Islam by using guns?
They're not related. I wouldn't honestly feel that they're related to Islam, but they're using Islam as the base for their crime.
There's been a recent spate of young boys being shot in their own homes, 2 of them.
Yeah.
Why do you think there is so much gun crime around here?
I feel because there's a lot of drugs in the areas, and young men are getting drawn into being runmen for runmen. This is what they call them. They take drugs, they take them into schools and they give it to children and on the streets and that. So because we've got this, sometimes they don't make enough money or whatever, and then because they haven't made enough money, they're killing them. This is the sort of madness that we've got in our society.
So was Adrian involved in any of that?
No, Adrian. I mean, he'd smoke a bit of pot, but that was about it. You know, he wouldn't get involved that deep in anything like that. He was too much of a mummy's boy, really, to get involved in anything like that.
So did Adrian tell you about these guys that were after him?
Oh, yes, and I told him, and I said to him, look, why don't you go to the station and report it? He said, well, Mum, if they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me anyway. Going to the station and reporting it's not going to make any difference, you know. And the thing is that the young people have got no confidence in the police as well. So this is the sort of vicious circle that we're living in.
Ruth, you're a really warm, lovely human being. I've only met you very, very briefly. How do you feel about the people that killed your son?
At first, if someone had given me a gun and given me the person that had shot Adrian, I would have shot him. I felt no way about it. But as time has progressed, I just feel very sorry for them. Really sorry for them, because honestly, I don't think they realise what they're doing. And the thing is that they might have taken Adrian's life, but they haven't taken the love that we had for Adrian. So, you know, they're just sad cases, and I really wouldn't bother with them now. And to be frank with you, I honestly feel that I've forgiven them.
Although the police can claim to have had some success in closing down the Muslim Boys, Brixton continues to be a fertile breeding ground for gangs, and we've heard about a new phenomenon in gang activity here.
A couple of years ago, the reference point for most South London gangs like the Ghetto Boys or the Peckham Boys was either British or Jamaican. Now it seems the younger gangs are aspiring to be more like their American counterparts. So I'm off to meet the South London Crips.
What? Cool.
Guys, you're claiming a colour at the moment. Can you tell me what colour that is?
Well, most of us we bang the blue, innit?
Blue, yeah.
Yeah, and it's cripping. Yeah, like it's all over the world. You might catch it in America, but around there, southwest, you know, bricks and slums. That's what it is, cripping it.
It's not that
It's a family, you see it? It's just our family, yeah? And we just gather to do our thing.
And what is your thing?
Mainly music, making money and hustling.
And making sure each other's all right. Obviously,
You know
we're
what I
like
mean?
a family, you
Our
just
welfare.
protect each other.
Looking after each other.
Yeah.
What would happen then if say, someone hurt or killed a member of your group, of your family? What would be the response?
Well, it's happened already.
If the beef comes, then we'll sort it, you see it? That's what the fans do.
We're just trying to make money like anyone else, but we've been brought up from different places, like where it's harder because the money's lower, so we have to resort to different things.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like we don't really look for jobs because we know, like, I don't know, we're going for an interview and they're looking at us black from a background, like from Brixton or area like that. You're not gonna get a job.
There's been a recent spate of killings of very young kids. Can you tell me what's going on?
Well, young kids, they just see what we see. Like when we was young, we wanted what older people had. They might find out that, maybe the only way to make money is to run up in somebody's house with a gun and stick it in their face, and if they've got money in their house, take it all. Do you know what I mean? And they've heard that from maybe a conversation that someone older might have said, you get me? And they're taking it upon themselves to go and do that because they think that's where the money is. Do you know what I mean? Everybody wants what everybody else has got. And the only way to get it is to either take out the other person or make the person scared enough to give it to you. You get me? Or maybe there might be a little feud that happened between you and somebody else.
I reckon there's more guns, yeah, because there's actually people making money on that.
There'll always be a supply if there's a demand, but why is there such a demand for them?
Because they know that other people got straps.
To protect yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, we see what happens to our friends. We will grow up from young with people that we're really close with, and getting on the older ages, we see them die, and it's painful. And we don't want to follow in the same footsteps, so we would have to protect ourselves.
We can't afford health insurance. That's our health insurance.
That's our life insurance, you know what I mean? Yeah, man.
And where do you think the guns come from? Where are they from?
It's coming from governments and...
They're not coming from the streets, they're coming from higher places.
But aren't you running a hell of a risk? If any of you ever carry a gun of going away to prison for a long time, that's not without even using it. It's 5 years just to be in possession of one, isn't it?
Then again, our life could get cut short from just like that, from just walking out there. It's basically see 5 years of no life, because I could go out there, see someone with I don't like, I got a bit of trouble with, they could shoot me dead. And tomorrow I won't be alive. When we speak, we don't get heard.
Yeah,
so people on the street sometimes kill each other or do what they're doing, so they get heard.
Yeah.
If I was to go out there and shoot someone dead now, my face would be all over the news, and what I've said or whatever, it will get across quick like that. Me as a normal person on the streets, I could talk about what I believe in, what's wrong with the society today, we don't get heard. A lot of the money that's coming from the government, it's not going to the right places. If it came to us, maybe we would be able to lead like a normal life. People would have to go around killing people to get money, robbing people's phones on buses, doing this. If we had the money...
But they can't really just give us money, like,
not
they
just
have to put money into the community, you get me?
Yeah.
To give us opportunities to do better things of our lives instead of wanting to steal, and you get me? Like, we will have money so we won't need to steal.
It's both scary and sad to think that there are thousands of kids out there like these, believing that crime is their only alternative. In part 3, I meet the father of a dealer and gang member whose criminal career path ended in murder.
I don't want him out. I'd be afraid, and too afraid he's going to come out and pose an even bigger threat.
And I speak to the Home Secretary about what I've heard on the streets.
Oh my God, I mean...
That is the accusation.
Yeah, no, I fully accept somebody thinks this.
The spotlight has been focused on London's gangs with a recent surge in teen and knife gun crimes. In my search to find out what's going on, I've heard a lot about parental responsibility. So I've come to meet a man whose teenage son led a gang responsible for one of the most horrific murders of recent times.
16-year-old Mary Ann was found murdered in a park in Reading last May. She'd suffered terribly at the hands of her captor.
The court heard that the gang leader Adrian Thomas blamed both girls for having set him up to be robbed a month earlier. and having tortured and raped them, Thomas was not about to stop there.
Tony Thomas is the father of Adrian, leader of the gang that murdered Marianne Lenihan.
Hello, mate. I'm Ross. Pleased to meet you.
Oh, you're right.
Tony, how did you first hear about Adrian's involvement in the case?
One day I'm sitting there watching it on the news and saying to myself, the person or persons that done that should have been donated to science, and the next day someone's ringing me up and telling me that my son had something to do with it. I was in a state of shock for about 24 to 48 hours. Just like dazed.
This is the car Marianne and her friend were sitting in when they were kidnapped. The two girls were abducted and bundled into the boot of this Nissan. They were taken here to the Abbey guest house. Their abductors booked into room 19 and the two girls were forced inside. The surviving girl, who can't be named for legal reasons, told the jury that they were then subjected to a horrifying torture session.
What was the last time you saw him before the incident?
Oh, the last time I saw him was on Strathmire Road in a fast food store, West Indian takeaway. And I'd gone in there to buy myself some lunch, and lo and behold, who's in front of me in the queue? I hadn't seen him for about 4 years. And as much as I hadn't seen him, I'd heard he was making money. I didn't think for the life of me what he was making money at, right? So I've walked in, he's there, he's turned round, he's giving me all these dirty looks and acting as if he smelt something really rotten. And I got that right hump. I got the right hump. I was so mad. The only thing I could think to do is barge in front of him in the front of the queue, and I said to the girl behind the counter, I said, have a look at that boy. And I deliberately said, that boy. And have a look at me, love, and tell me what you see. And she went left, right. She went, is that father and son? I said, son, I ain't seen this for about 4 years. And he went, something like that. The words weren't clear, but he was like, and he's looking at my shoes. And I come out of the store, and I went, that's it, I'm finished.
But did he feel that you were there for him?
No, he didn't feel that I was there for him. And even when I saw him, I could see in his face that he didn't think I was there for him.
Adrian Thomas was a small-time dealer from South London who wanted to expand his operation to Reading. But when he was beaten up and robbed by rival dealers, he blamed 16-year-old Marianne and decided to exact revenge.
They had their hair cut off and were scalded with boiling water from the room's kettle. They were also forced to smoke heroin and crack cocaine. All the while, the two teenage girls were told they would eventually be killed.
The nature of the violence, though, could you ever relate that to your son, the young boy that you knew growing up?
No, I can't relate it to my son.
Do you think gang mentality was an attributing fact to the egging on? Do you think he'd have ever done that on his own?
No, he wouldn't have done it on his own. He ain't got that bottle. Adrian is not that. I know he's lost, and it's because he was lost he's ended up where he's ended up. But he ain't got that, whatever it is you need.
How easy do you think it was for Adrian to get a gun?
It's seemingly one of the easiest things to get on the street. The same person that's going to be selling him Class A drugs is going to want to sell him a gun so that he can keep his business going for him.
The girl who survived told the court Marianne was crying and pleading. She fell into a ball on the ground, but the stabbing did not stop. Breaking down in tears, she added, they said something about wanting Marianne to die slowly. At that point, the girl was told, are you ready to die? Her attacker said, these are going to be your last memories, watching your friend being butchered.
So do you feel guilty about what happened?
I'm compelled. I wouldn't say I don't feel responsible, but I do feel responsible. I feel responsible for my failings with him.
6 youths were convicted on numerous charges, including murder, attempted murder, rape, assault and kidnap, and handed down long sentences.
So what do you think about his sentence, 26 years?
In the intervening 26 years that Adrian is doing, if he doesn't make some kind of contact with me, whether he starts off wanting to argue with me, I love a good argument. I'm not going to be rude to him, but there's obviously stuff to discuss. If he doesn't make some kind of contact now, especially seeing as he thinks he's a big man, I don't want him out. Because I'd be afraid, and too afraid, that he's going to come out and pose an even bigger threat to the society and the community, and be a nasty influence on people's children and grandchildren.
During the making of this programme, I've heard some pretty unexpected things. But the one thing that surprised me the most is the fact that some people believe that the guns on the streets are being put there by the government. So I've come to put some questions to the man who's expected to have all the answers, the Home Secretary, John Reid.
A lot of people out there on the streets believe that the guns are being allowed to go out on the streets because the government wants them there. How do you answer that?
Yeah, well, you know, I heard this once before, Ross, and it seems to me at first hearing just incredible. I think even more cynical.
Well, the accusation is sort of it's a control mechanism to keep a certain area of the populace in its place.
Oh my God! I mean,
that is the accusation.
Yeah, no, I fully accept that you know somebody thinks this, and you know we live in an age which is pretty cynical. But the question I would ask is, even if somebody thought we were as mad and cynical as to do that, they must recognise the damage it does to the government, because people look to the government and say, why is this happening? The truth of the matter is, we've got a world that's awash with guns. There's money to be made in them. Now, replica guns are being banned from October of this year, the importation of them. We've increased the sentence for guns, 5 years mandatory sentence for the use of these. We're now making sure that that applies. It's clarified from 18-year-olds upwards. Even younger than that, you can get up to 10 years sentence. We're doing the same sort of things with knives. But the police and the powers on their own won't do it. And that's what I've learned from talking to some of the mums and some of the young people who've been involved in these things. Parents need to face up to their responsibilities. The government can't do this on their own. You know, if there's an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old learning young by being out at midnight, they shouldn't be out at that time of night. Why don't the parents know where they are?
If you had a message to the young men that are joining gangs out there in South London, wherever it be in the UK, what would you say to them?
I would say value your life. I would say guns and knives don't make you safer. Ultimately, the people who are under threat from this more than anyone else, the people who lose their life more often than anyone else, are young people. And I would say to your own viewers, don't brand all young people as people who use guns and knives and in gangs. The truth of the matter is, the vast majority of young people, many of whom come from difficult circumstances, difficult backgrounds, struggle through that, find a better life, entertain themselves, amuse themselves, make themselves better without resorting to this.
Legal wrangles, access, and the fact that I live here have all contributed to making this a very difficult programme to make. The young men that I've met may be a small proportion of Britain's youth, but their anger, their hopelessness, and their belief that violence can be used to solve their problems means we can't afford to ignore them. Since we started filming, 3 teenagers have been stabbed to death, and the young men that I've spoken to can only see the problem getting worse. I don't know about you, but I think the prospect of 10-year-olds on the streets with submachine guns is truly terrifying.
Next Monday at 9, we go back and see how 50 stone Barry Austin is getting on 18 months later. And next, here tonight, There's a werewolf on the streets of London, and it's very, very hungry.